At 7 a.m., the sunlight barely touched the streets of downtown, but Jason Carter, the CEO of Carter's Café, was already awake. He'd built this place from the ground up, a cozy corner cafe known for its organic breakfast and family vibe. But recently, something felt off. Customer reviews were still glowing, the lines still long, but Jason had a nagging feeling. Employees were quiet, distant. Why had he been hearing whispers about staff problems? Why was business slower than usual despite the crowd? Jason was about to find out. He slipped into his favorite hoodie, grabbed a cap, and pulled it low over his eyes. No one would recognize him like this. Not the barista, not the cook, not even the waitress at the front. He needed to see the truth. He pushed open the door to his own cafe, the bell above jingling just like it did every morning. No one looked up. Jason slid into a booth by the window, his heart pounding. This wasn't a corporate meeting or a press event. This was a dive into his own business, hidden from the spotlight. He needed answers. A waitress approached, her smile forced, her eyes tired. "What can I get you?" she asked. "Just a coffee and the usual, scrambled eggs and bacon," Jason said, his voice casual. But inside he was listening, watching, waiting. The cafe was bustling with energy, but something wasn't right. The staff was moving through their routines, but the energy was flat. Jason overheard the cooks shouting orders, but their voices lacked the usual excitement. His heart dropped when he heard a familiar voice, a low murmur from the kitchen, cutting through the noise of sizzling pans. Jason leaned in slightly, pretending to read the menu, but his ears were locked on the conversation happening behind him. "Is he really going to get away with it?" a voice asked, tinged with bitterness. Jason didn't recognize the voice, but the words struck him hard. "Man, I don't know," came the reply. "But if we don't do something, we're going to be stuck here forever. You saw how he treated Kim last week. He didn't even care." Jason's heart skipped a beat. What were they talking about? Kim? His loyal waitress? And who was the he they were referring to? Jason shifted in his seat, pretending to fiddle with his phone as he leaned closer, listening. The cook's words were growing clearer now. "You think he doesn't know? He's too busy up there in his office. All these rules and promises, but we're the ones living in this hellhole. And if we don't fight back, it's only gonna get worse." Jason's grip on his coffee cup tightened. The cook was talking about him. He could feel the words sinking into his stomach, twisting into something ugly. Was it about his recent business decisions? Was his staff really this unhappy? He needed answers, but how could he get them without revealing himself? Jason stood up. His legs were shaky as he approached the kitchen, his mind racing. He needed to face the cook. David, he remembered. The one who had worked for him since the cafe's first day. Jason walked slowly, heart hammering in his chest. "David?" Jason said, keeping his voice steady. "Got a minute?" David turned around, eyes widening for a moment before he forced a smile. "Oh, hey, what can I do for you?" Jason pulled off his cap. The smile dropped from David's face. His eyes flicked to the other cooks before narrowing. "What's going on, man?" Jason leaned in, his voice firm. "I overheard you talking. What's this about me? What's going on in my kitchen? I own this place. If something's wrong, I need to know." David hesitated. Jason could feel the weight of the moment, the silence hanging thick between them. "Look," David finally said, his voice low. "I'm just telling you. You've been so busy with your new place, expanding, making more money. You don't care about the people who helped you get here. You don't see what's going on here anymore. You think things are running fine, but they're not." Jason's chest tightened. So it's true. They really think I don't care. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "What about Kim?" Jason asked. "What happened last week?" David's face darkened. "You really want to know?" "Fine." She asked for time off, Jason. She's been working double shifts every week for months. "And what did you do?" "You told her, 'No, we can't afford to lose a good waitress. She's barely holding it together, and you don't even see it.'" Jason's stomach churned. He didn't want to hear this, but he needed to. "You told her no," David continued, "and you didn't even care that she was struggling. She's been sick for days, but you just—" He stopped, looking around, before lowering his voice. "You don't see us. You don't see the people who made this place what it is. And if you don't do something about it soon, we're all gonna walk." Jason stood frozen, the weight of David's words hitting him like a slap. It felt like the room was closing in on him. He'd been so focused on the expansion, the bigger picture. Jason's hands shook as he stared at David. "I'm sorry," he said, the words feeling too small for what was happening. "I didn't know. I've been distracted, but I'm here now, and I'm going to fix this, all of it." David's eyes softened slightly, but there was still distrust in his gaze. "We'll see, Jason." Jason nodded. "I'll take care of Kim. I'll make sure you all get what you deserve. Things are changing starting today." Jason turned, walking back to the booth where he had been sitting. But the weight of the conversation was far from over. How deep did this go? Who else felt this way? And what else was he missing? As Jason sat back down, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. An anonymous message. His blood ran cold as he read it. "You have no idea what's really going on. It's not just the staff. Someone's been stealing from you, and it's worse than you think." Jason's heart raced. Who was behind this, and how far did the corruption go? He stared out the window, the morning light now casting long shadows inside his cafe. It was just the beginning. The phone buzzed again in Jason's hand. The screen flashed with the same ominous, anonymous message. "You have no idea what's really going on. It's not just the staff. Someone's been stealing from you, and it's worse than you think." His heart raced. He stared at the screen, his mind swirling with unanswered questions. Who was this? How did they know about the tensions in his cafe? Jason rubbed his temples. He had just confronted David, the cook, about the whispers in the kitchen, and now this. Another blow to his already crumbling sense of control. He had thought he was just dealing with disgruntled employees, but this was something entirely different. Jason's phone vibrated again, and he glanced at it. A new message appeared, this one from a blocked number. "You need to look closer. It's in your kitchen." Jason's pulse quickened. The words hit him like a punch. The kitchen, where everything had started, where the problems began. What was really going on there? He pushed his chair back and stood up. He couldn't stay seated any longer. The cafe buzzed around him as usual. Waitresses hustling, the clink of dishes, the soft hum of conversations. But all of that faded as Jason focused on the next step. He needed answers, not just from David, but from anyone who knew the truth. Without thinking twice, he walked toward the kitchen. He could feel the heat of the stove and the weight of every footstep that took him closer to the heart of the business. The door to the kitchen swung open, and Jason stepped inside, scanning the room. Cooks chopped vegetables, flipping eggs and stacking plates. Everything looked normal. But it wasn't. He could feel it. David was in the corner, scraping a pan. Jason approached him quietly, the moment from their earlier confrontation still hanging in the air. David, I need to know who sent that message, Jason said, his voice low but urgent. What's going on here, and who's been stealing from me? David didn't look up. I told you, it's not just about the money, he replied gruffly, his voice tight. It's about the people. And you didn't care, Jason. You didn't see it until now. Jason felt a pang of guilt hit him again, but he pushed it down. I get it, but I need to know who's behind this, who's been taking from the cafe, who's been lying to me. David finally turned to face him, his expression grim. You're asking the wrong questions. It's not just about the money, Jason. The people in your cafe, they're hurting, they're struggling, and you've been blind to it for too long. Jason felt his frustration building. I didn't come here for a lecture, David. I came for the truth. If you know something, now's the time to tell me. David's eyes flickered toward the back of the kitchen, and Jason's gaze followed. Then David's voice dropped lower, almost to a whisper. You want the truth? Fine. You've been set up, Jason. Someone's been feeding you lies. The staff isn't the problem. The problem is with your suppliers and your inventory and the money that's gone missing from the books. It's not a random theft. Someone in your company's been selling your products under the table, right under your nose. Jason's chest tightened. His breath caught in his throat. What do you mean, selling products? He felt dizzy as he tried to process David's words. David took a deep breath. The produce, Jason, your supplies, they've been slipping through the cracks. It's been happening for months. There's an operation inside your own cafe. Someone's been taking your fresh produce, your inventory, and selling it. But here's the thing. You've been getting a cut of it. You've been taking bribes without even realizing it. I didn't want to say anything, but the longer it's gone on, the worse it's gotten. Jason felt the room spinning. No, he whispered, the truth crashing into him. No, this can't be true. You're saying I'm involved? David's expression softened, but the sadness in his eyes only made it worse. I didn't want you to be, but you've been blind, Jason. You've been so focused on expanding, on making your cafe bigger, that you didn't notice what was happening right under your roof. Jason stumbled back a few steps, his thoughts whirling. He felt sick. How could he have been so blind? David sighed. You have to trust me, Jason. You need to go through the books, check your inventory, look closer. You'll see it's all there. This isn't just a few stolen items. It's a whole operation, and it's been happening right under your nose for far too long. Jason's mind raced. Who could be behind this? He thought back to his earlier conversations. Could it be David himself? Or maybe it was someone closer to the front of the cafe. He had to know. David leaned in, lowering his voice even more. Jason, it's not just about who's stealing. There's someone in your inner circle who's orchestrating this. They've been covering their tracks for months, and you've been kept in the dark. The pieces started to fall into place. His stomach twisted. He needed to get to the bottom of this fast. Jason's thoughts were interrupted by a loud crash from the kitchen. He spun around, his heart leaping into his throat. A young man, one of the kitchen staff, had dropped a stack of plates. He stood frozen, his eyes wide, his face pale. It was clear that he wasn't just shocked by the noise. There was something else in his expression, something darker. David noticed it too. Get back to work, Eddie, he snapped, his tone suddenly hard. Eddie flinched but didn't move. Jason's eyes locked onto Eddie's. What's going on? Jason demanded, taking a few steps toward him. Why are you looking like that? Eddie's hands trembled. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. David shot him a warning look. "Don't listen to him, Jason. He's just panicking." Jason's instincts kicked in. "What did you mean, Eddie?" He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "Did you steal from me, too?" Eddie swallowed hard. "No, I didn't steal, but I know who did. I've seen it happen. I didn't want to say anything, but... Jason, you have to know. Your manager's been behind it all. It's Tara. She's the one who's been selling your stock." Jason froze. Tara, his trusted manager. It was the last name he expected to hear. David's expression shifted, his face hardening. "Eddie, you need to stop talking, now." But it was too late. Eddie's words had already set something in motion, something Jason couldn't stop. She's been cutting deals with the suppliers, Jason. They're selling off your fresh ingredients for cash. She's been pocketing the difference." Jason's head spun. Tara. He couldn't believe it. Tara had been with him since the beginning. She had helped him grow the cafe, built it into the successful business it was today. And now she was the one behind everything. Jason took a step back, his mind racing. The walls of the kitchen felt like they were closing in. Everything he thought he knew was unraveling. Jason's gaze locked onto David's. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice steady despite the storm inside him. "Is Tara really behind this?" David hesitated, then nodded. "I didn't want to believe it either, Jason. But it's all true. Tara's been running a side business. She's been taking your stock, selling it to the highest bidder, and keeping you in the dark about it. She's been making a fortune off your hard work." Jason didn't speak. He couldn't. The betrayal cut too deep. He needed to act. Fast. Turning to Eddie, Jason said, "You need to tell me everything." "How do you know all this?" Eddie shifted uncomfortably. "I've seen it. I've overheard her talking to the suppliers. They were making the deals right in front of me. She even offered me a cut to keep quiet. But I couldn't do it. I had to say something." Jason nodded slowly. "Good. Now we're going to make sure Tara doesn't get away with this." As Jason stepped out of the kitchen, his mind was a whirlwind of decisions. He had to confront Tara. He had to expose her. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized this wasn't just about one person's greed. This was about the system he had created and the mistakes he had made. Just as Jason reached for his phone to call the authorities, a sudden thought stopped him cold. Who else was involved? Jason's hands shook as he stared at the screen. There was another message waiting for him. "It's not over yet, Jason. There's more to the story than you know. You're being watched." Jason's heart dropped into his stomach. Jason stood frozen, the phone buzzing in his hand. The words from the anonymous message rang in his ears. "It's not over yet, Jason. There's more to the story than you know. You're being watched." His pulse quickened. He glanced around the cafe. The kitchen was still. The clatter of plates and the hum of the coffee machine now drowned out by the roar of his thoughts. What was this? Who was watching him? The familiar warmth of the cafe, the place he had built with his own hands, suddenly felt suffocating. Jason had come here for answers, thinking he would uncover a simple theft, maybe a disgruntled employee skimming off the top. But this was something far more sinister. It wasn't just about Tara. It wasn't just about inventory going missing. The entire foundation of his business was starting to crack beneath him. And the more he peeled back the layers, the more he realized he didn't know the whole truth. He had to act. There was no more time to waste. Jason stepped away from the phone, rubbing his forehead in frustration. The cafe had been his pride and joy, everything he had ever worked for. But now, it seemed like everything was falling apart. His staff, his customers, Everyone was connected to this web of deceit in one way or another. He needed to get to the bottom of this. Turning toward the kitchen, Jason spotted David again. His eyes were locked on Jason, and for a moment, the two exchanged an understanding glance. David knew this wasn't just about fixing a few broken processes. The trust between Jason and his employees had been shattered. And it wasn't just because of the theft. It was because Jason had let it go on for so long without noticing. Now, it was his responsibility to rebuild that trust. Jason walked over to the counter where Tara, his manager, was stacking plates. Her back was turned, but Jason's presence made her stiffen. She didn't even look at him as he stood nearby, but he could feel her awareness of him in the air. Taking a deep breath, Jason spoke. "Tara, we need to talk." She spun around, her face flashing surprise before quickly recovering. "Of course, Jason. What can I do for you?" she asked, her voice carefully controlled. Jason didn't miss the way she wiped her hands on her apron before turning to face him fully. He knew that look, guilt, masked under professionalism. "I know what's been going on," Jason said, his voice firm but calm. "And I know you're the one behind it. I know about the stock and the suppliers, and I know you've been making deals that you shouldn't have been." "Tara, why?" The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Jason didn't give her time to gather her thoughts. He wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. "I trusted you," he continued, "and I've let this go on for far too long. You've been lying to me, Tara, and I don't think I can let you keep doing this." Her eyes flickered with something that might have been shame, but she quickly masked it. "Jason, you were stealing from me, from all of us," Jason interrupted. His voice was sharp, cutting through the air like a knife. "You've betrayed not just me, but every person who's worked here and believed in this place, this cafe. You've been lining your pockets, taking from the people who built this place and covering it up with your charm and loyalty. It ends now." Tara's face turned red, and for a moment, Jason thought she might lash out. But instead she slumped slightly, her shoulders dropping in defeat. "You're right. I did it. But I didn't think you would understand." Jason shook his head. "No, you didn't think at all." Tara's voice quivered. "I didn't mean for it to go this far, but things weren't working out for me. My bills were stacking up. My mom's been sick, and I couldn't—" "I don't care," Jason cut in, his tone cold now. "What you've done is wrong, and it doesn't matter why you did it. What matters is that you betrayed this company, and you hurt the people who trusted you." There was a heavy silence between them, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Tara's face crumbled as the reality of the situation settled in. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought I could handle it on my own." Jason's chest tightened as he looked at her. He didn't want to see her like this, but the damage was already done. The betrayal was too deep. "Tara, I'm going to have to let you go," Jason said, his voice almost a whisper now. "I don't want to do this, but I don't have a choice." Tara's eyes filled with tears, and she quickly wiped them away. "I understand," she said softly. "I'm sorry." Jason nodded, but it didn't make him feel any better. It didn't fix the damage. He watched her walk away, her head down, shoulders hunched, until she disappeared through the back door of the kitchen. Jason stood there for a long time, taking in the cafe, the kitchen, the staff moving around him. There was a strange stillness to the place now. It was as if everyone knew something had changed, but no one was ready to say it. David came over and placed a hand on Jason's shoulder. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. Jason nodded, but the words felt empty. He had done the right thing, yes. But at what cost? Tara had been with him since the beginning. She had helped him build this place, and now he had to let her go. He couldn't shake the guilt that gnawed at him, that maybe he should have seen this coming. Maybe, if he'd paid closer attention, he could have stopped this before it escalated. David gave him a long, searching look. You need to do more than just fire Tara, Jason. You need to fix what's broken, and you need to make sure this never happens again. Jason looked at David, his mind still racing. He wasn't sure how to fix it yet, but he knew David was right. It wasn't just about Tara. It was about the whole cafe, the entire company. It was about the culture he had allowed to develop here, one that had turned a blind eye to the people who made it successful. I'm going to fix it, Jason said, his voice firm now. I'm going to make sure everyone here knows they matter. We're going to rebuild trust, and we're going to do things differently from now on. David nodded, but Jason could see the doubt still in his eyes. Jason had a long way to go. The work wasn't over. As the day wound down and the cafe began to empty, Jason sat at his booth, sipping his coffee. The place was quieter now, but there was a sense of calm. A change had been made. He wasn't sure how things would play out, but he knew it had to be done. He picked up his phone, his fingers lingering over the screen. The anonymous messages had stopped, but their weight still lingered on his shoulders. There were still questions he needed answers to, still people to confront, and still work to do. But for the first time in weeks, he felt like he was heading in the right direction. He wasn't just some distant owner. He was part of the community he had created. Jason looked around the cafe again, taking it all in. The customers, the employees, the laughter, the clinking of silverware. It wasn't perfect, but it was his, and it could be better. He smiled to himself. Maybe it was time to start over. Maybe it was time for a new beginning, for the business, for the people, and for him. As he stood up to leave, a thought crossed his mind. This is just the beginning. The real work starts now.